He's really hot, and we had amazing sex. But that goes a long way.
No, it doesn't. Now, how'd you get up with the stand-up comedy?
I just had this realization that I might be coming off as crazy.
Yeah, fuck. Eat some more Star, please.
It's Joey's fault. He gave me a star with weed in it.
The Star of Death.
The Star of Death.
I really want to talk to those RV people, like, because they all park next to each other. I want to know what, like, there's one over here, on Oxnard with across from the Macy's, and they have like a whole family.
There is?
Yeah.
Up here?
Oh. Yeah, and it's like they have kids in it, and it's just like...
They live in different locations, and they move at night.
Yeah.
Or they move in the daytime. They're in NoHo Park in the daytime, and they set chairs out there. When I go there and do kettlebells, I'll see people out there. They hey, listen, man. If I didn't have my wife, I used to have a girlfriend, and she was cheap as fuck, and she figured out having an RV one day. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't a bad deal. She lived in a park that catered to that. So you move into these parks and you pay like $400 a month. They got swimming pools and gyms,
yes,
and supermarkets
and
movie theaters.
I know.
It's fucking amazing. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't fucking believe it. Well, that's where she lived in Renton, Washington. And I used to stay up there with her. It was a hike from Seattle. But once I went up there, I would stay up there for 3 days. I could get weed on the fucking reservation.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Let me tell you, one summer I did this tour, okay? And it was for like the national parks. And so the whole summer we camped because they gave us hotel per diem. Instead of using that, we just camped the whole summer. And we stayed in a lot of those places. And it is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It really is.
And the reason that I think I would like it is because I remember being the least stressed out I ever was in my life. I didn't have a whole bunch of clothes to go through every day to decide what to wear. I didn't have when the sun went down, I go to sleep. When the sun came up, I'd wake up. There was no stress. I just felt really relaxed. And I feel like maybe sometimes overwhelmed with my apartment. I look at homeless guys sleeping on a bench in the park, and sometimes I think that doesn't look that bad. It just looks kind of relaxing. I'm telling you.
It's fucking crazy being homeless and sleeping outside. When you go on the road and you're a comic, there's nights that you fucking, your bus lands in El Paso, in Albany, at 4 a.m, but the connecting bus to Buffalo doesn't come in until 7 a.m. And you're there with fucking homeless people outside. And you sit there and you smoke your cigarette, but you're watching them and you're like, this is fucking interesting shit.
It really is.
An interesting
I love
lifestyle.
talking to them. Yeah.
It's fucked up to think about. Whenever you see a bad one, like they're just passed out, and it's just
yeah.
It's like, wow, knowing you don't have anywhere to go. That's the craziest part.
Well, the difference is there's homeless people who do it because they have to, and then there's homeless people who choose it. I was in Moab, Utah, and I met a guy who was the most homeless-looking guy I've ever seen. And I remember asking him, I was like, where do you live? Because it's so hot there. I was like, you live under a bridge? You have shade? And he's like, no, I love the sun. I just love living outside. He just loved living outside. He chose it. So I think the ones you see passed out are probably a little more
drunk.
They're addicts and stuff.
Yeah, they're all fucked up. So back to the conversation at hand. When did you get into comedy?
Right, sorry. So I started doing stand-up in 2007, but I did it for about 3 years, and then I booked that gig where I was emceeing. And then I left LA for 3 years and just was emceeing full-time, which I wasn't really doing comedy at all. But in a weird way, I came back, and I felt like when I got back to doing stand-up, I was much better. From being on stage all that time.
On stage.
Yeah, and then I've been back about 3.5 years doing it since.
I saw you out a couple times, but the fucking bikini things make me laugh. And I didn't want you to, I never didn't want you to think, there's a big thing with me with women in comedy. I like women in comedy. I really support women in comedy. I know when a woman is faking the funk, and I know when a woman is doing comedy. I know when a woman comes into the comedy store and says, I want somebody to write for me. Suck your dick. You just want to be a fucking star in 2 weeks.
That?
Oh, it's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. But, I used to see the bikini things, and I would just die because they're funny. It's not a broad in a bikini. It's a broad in a bikini who just doesn't give a fuck. But to see the white people around her, in all those little pictures, the one when you're dancing at the kid thing with some black guy, and you're just jumping up and down, was one of the funniest things I ever saw. When you went and bought the printer was
thanks.
fucking funny.
Thanks.
And then I would talk about you to people. And I got to tell you, man, you know, when you go into the store and you see somebody, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I say a couple funny things. But in reality, I'm just replacing that guy. You know, I'm just replacing that guy. You know, when you see Noe Gonzalez, you know he was replacing Angel Salazar. You know, when you see different people, when you saw Ralphie May, he was replacing that big fat guy that used to hang out at the comedy store with the limos. That was crazy with the fucking southern hat. You ever see the picture of him in the back, wild, whatever? You know, you see these people. When I saw you and I saw you doing that stuff, you reminded me of a young Felicia when I first met Felicia.
Thank
and
you.
then I caught you some night at the belly room. I went upstairs for something, and I caught the last 3 minutes here, and I remember telling Josh Wolf, I go, you know that fucking girl, Kate Quigley, she's not just a fucking bikini. That girl's fucking funny. You hustle, you're out every night, you know, you're not blowing guys every fucking night, which I would hear about, you know.
Thank you.
And that takes a lot to be a woman comic. You know, we had somebody in here a couple months ago, and I know a girl, Georgia, who I love from Australia. She used to be a comedian at the Comedy Store. And she made a statement, you know, they were talking about all these women that get abused doing comedy, how it's a boys' game, and blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. And she wrote, you know, that's why I quit comedy. You don't know what it's like to get sexually harassed every night. And I thought about Kate Quigley when I read that. I go, you get sexually harassed every fucking night. I mean, you get sexually harassed everywhere, Kate Quigley. I love you to death, but if I would have met you 30 years ago, I would have asked you point blank, let's get a rock of coke and put it in your pussy and shit. Put
Thank
that
you.
bikini to the side. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you don't look at women like that. Now I look at you, and like I said, I've been at the Comedy Store. I've seen comics come and go. I've seen guys come and go. But I know a woman when I know she's trying to pull a fucking quickie. You know, they come
Yeah,
into
yeah.
town. They think they have they think I could do this. I could be, you know, Natasha Leggero. I could be. They never think about the work.
Yeah.
And they come into town, and they do this and this, and you see them, and they make a little hedgeway, but they're sucking this guy's dick. They're sleeping with this guy, and then you see them 2 years later, and they're just fucking beat up. Like they're just beat up emotionally, and then they
Yeah.
just disappear.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I don't know. Well, thank you, first of all. It is funny, the sexual harassment thing, this is the thing. It does happen. And every once in a while, it'll actually annoy me, but then I have to go, well, I kind of bring it on myself. I mean, I post these photos and stuff. There's a double standard if I'm like, oh, my Instagram, you know, 1 in every 7 photos is me in a bikini, and then I don't expect guy comics to...
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I just started hearing about you a few months ago, especially like with the Periscope show.
Uh-huh.
And when a guy hears about like girls in bikini, you're gonna go look. But even with your Instagram photos, it's not super close up. It's like there's girls out there who do Periscope and it's just all boobs.
We're going in like fucking Marines. You understand me?
Welcome to church, motherfucker.